All right. Today is March, April. Oh God, it's April. April 5th. Good. Okay. 17 days until I get inundated with so many birthday presents from all my students. It's going to be so good. It's going to be the best day ever. Earth Day. Don't forget it. Yeah, Earth Day is my birthday. It's a good way to remind everybody that. Just so you know, I do prefer in cars. I do like red. Well, I am turning a special birthday, so it's important. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So we have here our first important question: who would win in a fight, Superman or the Hulk? Does anyone have an answer to that question? How many say Superman? Overwhelmingly positive. Who says the Hulk? Thank you. Okay, that's interesting. I I feel like we should have a movie made on that because I think the only way we're going to get resolution is if there's actually a movie. Ah, that's true too. Yeah, you can't. That's true. Gamma rays. He feeds off gamma rays, right? Okay. Well, that was a good 3 minutes spent on that part of the video. But anyway, we're going to go to our answers here. So this is your test. This is a template for what your test will look like when we write it. The first question on your test will be a what percent question, the first three actually. So the first is that what percent is represented by this drawing. Now if we look at this, this is 100 out of 100. This is 20 out of 100. So if we add those two together, I get 120 out of 100, which is 120%. Just like that, as easy as it gets. Question 2 says what percent is represented by this drawing? Again, we have 100 out of 100, 100 out of 100. And here's a little bit tricky because we actually only have 10 here, 9 here, and 9 there. That's 28. So we have 28 and 3/4 out of 100, which is 228 and 3/4 out of 100, which is 228 and 3/4%, or 228 and 3/4% as a decimal. Both of those answers are correct. Question 3. Question 3 says what percent is represented by this drawing? Weirdly, they put the picture here. But if we look at it, the only thing shaded in is that one partial square, which means it's less than 1%. The answer will be less than 1%. In fact, it's just a quarter of a percent, or 0.25%. Now, a big mistake is that this is, a lot of people think that this is equal to this, but of course they're not the same thing. As we can see from the picture, a quarter percent is less than 1%. Question 4 asks us to actually draw, and the first one says 0.17%. Now, again, just like the last question, a lot of people probably think that's what percent? 17%, but it's not. It's less than 1%, which means you have to take one of these things and shade in just a partial bit of it, and then circle it and highlight it over here to show that, actually I probably just could use this one right here, couldn't I? Rather than redraw it, I'll just use the magnifying square right next to it. Take my highlighter tool and shade in 17 of them, right? I said one too many. Well, you know what? I could just do this then, couldn't I? Okay, that's 17 squares shaded in, right? So this picture right here, represented from this fuel tank, is only 17/100ths of a percent, significantly less than 1%. The second one says 5 2/5%. So again, I'll grab my highlighter, choose a different color this time, maybe a thicker marker too. So 5%, I shaded 5 of those. That's 5%. 2/5 of a percent. I'm going to take this square and magnify it over here. 4 lines make 5 sections. Grab my highlighter again. Grab my green. Grab my little bit thicker. Shade in 2/5 of it. Make sure I just have a little bit shaded in there. And that is 5 2/5% right there. Or, another way to represent that would be, or 5.4%. Not quite 5.5%, but 5.4%. And the last question says 105.1%. So again, grab my highlighter. What color do we want to use here for highlighter? Let's go a beautiful purple, a wider one. 105%. That is 100%. By the way, if you have highlighters, make sure you bring one to your test, because when you do the shading in, it's so much easier with a highlighter. 100. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I went too far, but that's okay. Magnify this one. So decimal 1 is a tenth. So there's two ways we can do it. If you're going to use this one here, a tenth is actually that much right there. So if you magnify that one, that's what it would be there. But since we kind of like just magnify them, we can take another square, 9 lines, and then just shade in that last one with your highlighter. That's a tenth. So that is 105.1% right there. Our next question says complete the chart. Let's just grab a thicker marker here. Let's just make this one here. Okay. It says 19 over 20 as a decimal. Now all of you know, right? What's the easiest way? I'm over here, Colin. Hello. So how do you change any fraction to a decimal? Should be something everyone in this room knows. Jack, what's the easiest way to change any fraction to a decimal? Multiply. Uh-oh. Sarah, what's the easiest way? Divide the numerator by the denominator. So for this one, if you take 19 and divide it by 20, it will tell you 0.95, I hope. 19 numerator divided by, oops, I'm going to move this over here. Oh, come on now. Divided by, oh, hello. So 19 divided by 20, if I press the equal sign, it says 0.95, and that's as easy as it gets for that. Now, percentage. Isaiah, what's the easiest way to change that to a percentage? Think of it as a fraction over 100. Now, there's two ways to do that. You can make this into an equivalent fraction out of 100. By multiplying both by 5, you get 95 out of 100. Or you can simply read that, say, what number is that? It's 95 hundredths. Either way, it's 95%. Right. When you have 0.4, the easiest way to change it to a lowest term fraction is to first read it. And 0.4z is what number? 4/10. That's right. So when I say 4/10, I'm going to write it as 4 over 10. Is that lowest terms? No, it's not, because both are divisible by 2. So an equivalent fraction to 4/10 is 2/5. Half a point for each of those on your test. Make sure you write it as you read it, and then write it in lowest terms by dividing both numerator and denominator by a common factor. What percent is it? Well, again, like I said before, you need to have it as a fraction over 100. And since this is 4/10, it's equal to 40 hundredths, which means it's equal to 40%. Make sure you change it to a fraction out of 100, and then read the numerator as your percentage. Your last one, 14%, easy peasy. Because it's a percentage, so easy to change it to a fraction because it's out of 100. That would be 14 over 100. And since it's not in lowest terms, 7/50ths would be in lowest terms. As a decimal, 14 hundredths, just read that fraction. As long as your denominator is a 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, you can write it as a decimal because 14 hundredths is 0.14. Repeating the process again, 3 over 25. Take my calculator. 3 divided by 25 equals 0.12. Another way you could have done that is made it into an equivalent fraction out of 100. Multiply numerator and denominator by 4, you get 12 hundredths, which is actually very useful because now when I ask you what's the percentage, you know that that is 12%. When we go to the decimal, 0.08, what number is that? Cohen, what number is 0.08? 8 hundredths, right, which as a fraction is 8 over 100, which in lowest terms is 2 over 25, because both are divisible by 4. Once we have that, though, 8 over 100 tells us the percentage. 8 over 100 is 8%. And finally, last one, 3% would be 3 over 100. As a decimal, it's 3 hundredths, so therefore 0.03. The good news, bad news to this story is that all of that question is not a grade 8 question. It's probably like a grade 6, grade 7 Grade 5, grade 6, grade 7 question. When we get into question number 6, we're actually getting into your grade 8 questions from our curriculum guide. And let me just get a little thicker marker here. There we go. 3 over 200, same process. Divide the numerator by the denominator. You're going to get 0.015 when you divide the numerator by the denominator. And I'll show you just because I might as well just take up more of this video time. 3 divided by 200 is 0.015. Now, I could have got that answer by making it into an equivalent fraction that's not inappropriate. If I divide 200 by 2, I get 100. Divide 3 by 2, I get 1.5. And if I say, well, hold on, I got a decimal in there. If I multiply both by 10 now, I get 15 over 1,000, which is 15 thousandths. Of those 3 equivalent fractions, which one's the best to use for a percentage? This one, 1.5 out of 100 is 1.5%. Grace, what number is 0.004? 4 thousandths, which as a fraction is 4 over 1,000, which as a lowest term fraction is 1 over 250, because both are divisible by 4. As an equivalent fraction, it's also 0.4 out of 100, if I divide both by 10. Is that important? That equivalent fraction? Why? It tells you a percentage. 0.4 over 100 is 0.4%. Now on a test, I would also like you to be able to do this. This is just the fancy part. For those of you who got this, 0.4% is also this, which also in lowest terms is that. So make a note of that. 0.4% could also be written as a fraction. Remember, 4 over 10% is not 40%. It's 0.4%, less than 0.5%, etc. 0.3% is not 30%. 0.3%, just like the last question, is this percentage. And the reason why I wrote that is because over here is a fraction, because it's a percentage, it's out of 100, and it's an equivalent fraction out of 1,000. So that's how you have to get it. In order to change 3 over 10% to a fraction, you must first think of it as a decimal percentage, then put that decimal in the numerator over 100, and make an equivalent fraction, 3 over 1,000. 3 thousandths is 0.003. Question number 4 on this particular chart says 4 over 9. So again, grabez-vous ton calculator and do 4 divided by 9, which is going to blow your minds. 0.4 repeating. So as a decimal, we write that as 0.4 with a line above it. That's bar notation you learned last year. That means 0.4 repeating, which is approximately equal to 44.4%, or actually, get rid of that. It is equal to 44.4 repeating percent, not approximately equal to, but exactly equal to 44.4 repeating percent. The next one gives us a difficult, for a lot of people it's a difficult one. I don't know why it's difficult, but 1.505 is 1 and 505 thousandths, which we would write like that. In lowest terms, both are divisible by 5. That would be 101 over 200. In lowest terms is 1 and 201 over 200. 200, is that right? I think so. Was it 101? Oh, 101, yeah. 101 over 200, thank you. 101 over 200. But as an improper fraction, it's 1,505 over 1,000. Now, why do I want to write that? Because if it's not improper, Addison, what ends up happening is I cannot make my equivalent fraction over 100. So I do know that as an improper fraction, it's this. As a fraction over 100, divide by 10, I get 150.5 over 100. So now I have my equivalent fraction out of 100. The numerator tells me the percentage. So therefore, it's 150.5%. Just remember, this is a mixed fraction. Change it to an improper fraction. Because it's over 1,000, I can make it into an equivalent fraction over 100. And because the numerator is over 100, I can read the numerator as the percentage. And finally, the last one, 2 3/4% is 2 3/4%. Remember, it's not quite 3%. Since it's a percentage, it's a fraction. It's over 100. So 2.75 over 100, which is 275 over 10,000, which in lowest terms are both divisible by 25. I get 11 over 400. Is that right? Did anyone else get that, or is that just me? Lowest terms. Anyone get 11 over 400? It doesn't matter. It's close enough. I did it in my head. If I'm wrong, who cares? No one's taking me to jail, are they? And then this one here says 275 10,000ths, which is 0.0275. That's 275 10,000ths. So therefore, that's how you write it, as a decimal. Okay, our next question, 7, says, better get rid of this thing. It says, mentally calculate the percents of each number for $288. So 50%, what I'd like you to do is half. Write that in there. Half of 288 is 144. 25% is half of half, which is $72. 1%, you move the decimal twice. So you get 2.88. Move decimal twice. You don't have to write this. I'm just telling you how to do it. As long as you have the answer, that's how you do it. 10%, you move the decimal once. And you would get $28. Now, don't say $28.8. That's such a nerdy thing to say. It is $28.80. Put an extra zero on there to make sure that you know that it's $28.80. 5% is half of 10%, so it's $14.40. $8. 0.1% is our grade 8 learning, which means you move the decimal 3 times, so it's going to be $0.288. Or you could say 28 cents and 0.8 of a cent. You could write that like that as well if you wanted to. Or if you wanted to, you could say approximately 29 cents, but don't round it, just keep it like that. Half a cent, half a percent is half of 1%. Since 1% is $2.88, half a percent would be half of that, which is $1.44. 35% is the sum of 10% and 25%. Since 10% was $28.80 and 25% was $144.72. Add those together, you get $110.80. Just like that. 15% is the sum of 10%, which is $28.80, and 5%, which is half of that, which is $14.40. Put those together, you get $32, $42, $43.20. I think. If I make a mistake, just let me know because I'm not overly smart this morning. I haven't had my full coffee yet. And finally, 5.1% is 5%, which is $14.40, and 0.1%, which is 28 and 0.8 of a cent. Put those together, you get $14.68 and 0.8 of a cent. Just like that. And our last two in this chart say 76.5%. So 75% is how much money again? Somebody help me because I can't see my work. Is $216. 1% is $2.88, and 0.5% is $1.44. Put those all together, you get $2.18, $2.19, $2.20, $12. Is that right? $2.12, $2.20. I can't add those up together. 12, carry the one, 23, 32. Is that right? Something like that. Does anyone else get that? Okay, we're good. And finally, 99.9%, the easiest way is to take 100%, which is $288. Take away 0.1%, which is 28 and 0.8 of a cent. You're going to get $287 and 71 and 0.2%. Is that right? I think I did that right. Is that right? Did I make a mistake? No, we're good. Okay. The easiest way is to simply subtract. Now, if you did addition, you could do it that way, but that is most definitely the easiest way to get the answer. All right, let's go pan up now, shall we, to our last chart, on how to calculate with a calculator. 21.25% is over here 21.25%, or 21.25 out of 100, or 2125 over 10,000. So I've just made my equivalent fraction. The percentage was easy, 21.25 out of 100. That's the fraction. As an equivalent fraction with no decimal, 0 decimal. So as a decimal, 21.25% of 40 would be my work. That gets you a point on your test. Grab your calculator. 21.25% of $40 is $8.50. Second question, 102.1% is 102.1 over 100, or 102.10 over 10,000, or 1,000, or 1 and 21 over 1,000 as a mixed fraction. Now this is important to think of this whole process that I did here. Because it's improper, change it to mixed. 1 and 21 thousandths is 1 and 21 thousandths of 42. So that is what 102.1% looks like as a decimal. Take your calculator. 102.1% of 42 is 42.882. 42.882. 882 dollars. Don't round unless it asks you to. So that's $42.88 and 0.2 of a cent over there. 1/25 of a percent is the same thing as this amount as a percentage, because 1 divided by 25 is 0.04. So we're talking about something significantly smaller than 1%. As a fraction, that's what it would be. As a fraction with no decimal, it would be 4/10,000ths. Remember, the first step was they don't like fractions, make it into a decimal instead. Because it's a percentage now, I could put that in my numerator over 100, make an equivalent fraction without a decimal, and 4/10,000ths, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths times 128 is your mat. 4/10,000ths, or 1/25 of a percent of $128 is 0.0512, or just a little bit less than a nickel, or a little bit more than a nickel, excuse me. And finally, our last question in this chart. 0.9%, actually the easiest one probably of most of them, is 0.9 out of 100, which is 9 out of 1,000. So 9 thousandths is 0.009 times 81, which if we work it out on our magical calculator, it is almost 73 cents, 0.729. 72 and 9/10 of a cent. All right, we have two questions left. The first one, they're both story problems. The first one says a $148 shirt is discounted 40%, then taxed at a rate of 15. Using as few steps as possible, what is the final price of the shirt? So I'm going to do it the basic way. 40%, if you find the discount would be 40% of 148, or 40% of 148, which would be, if I grab my calculator, 40% of 148 is $59.20, correct? So your discount is $59.20. What do I do with that discount, Z, in order to figure out what the discounted price is? If you add it on to 148, that's going to be the worst discount you've ever seen. You know you're going to subtract $59.20 from 140. So the shirt was $148. Obviously, it's Lululemon because that's the only place you pay that much money for a shirt. Take away the discount, the 40% discount. So you grab your calculator and say, okay, this $148 Lululemon shirt, subtract the discount of $59.20, that's 40%. The price you're paying for that shirt is $88.80. So you're like, wow, that's sweet. That's a good deal. $88 for a shirt. Wow. But then you have to have tax on that. So 40%, or sorry, 15%, that's the tax rate. 15% of 88.80. What would we multiply that by? We'd multiply it by this. And if you take that and multiply it by 15%, oop, that's the wrong button. So $88, 15% of that, oh, back, multiplied, oh, there it is, multiplied by 0.15 means that the tax is $13.32. Take the price of your shirt, add on the tax, and your final price will be $102.12. Okay. Now that is using the most steps possible, right? But if we think about it, how do I represent the discounted price? Well, if we think about losing 40%, we subtracted 40%. If we think about this as being the $148 shirt, this 40% was removed, and that amount worked out to be $59.20, which means I'm paying for 60% of the shirt, which would be the remainder of that, which would be $88.80. So, if I think about what do I do to write that mathematically, 60% of $148, if I think about that, that's going to be $88.80. That's the cost of the discounted shirt. Now, if I take this number and multiply it by 1, what percentage of that discounted price would I have there? 100%, right? If I multiplied it by, instead of multiplying it by 1, what if I multiplied it by, oh, how come that didn't work? If I multiply it by 0.15, that would be the tax on the discounted shirt. So what do I want to multiply it by to get all of the cost of the discounted shirt and the tax? 1.15. And that is the simplest way to get your answer. Think about the discounted price as a mathematical statement. And think about how you would get that tax onto it. You would multiply it by not 0.15, because that's just the tax, but 1.15, and that would get your final answer. Our last question says a $40,800 car is discounted 4.25%. Then the discounted car is taxed at a rate. So 4.25% or 4.25% is 4.25 out of 100, or this is a decimal. So 4.25% of 40,800 will be, grab my calculator, 4.25% of 40,800 means the discount is $1,734. That's how much you get to save. So you take your car price, subtract the discount. I'm going to do it reverse because I know it's still going to work. The price of the car is $39,066. $39,066. Now that has to be taxed at a rate of 15%. So if I multiply that, I'm just going to change it to positive because I know times it by, oh, sugar. So if I take that and multiply it by 0.15, the tax on that discount, oh my God, you're going to pay $5,859.90 to the government. So the cost of the car plus your tax will be your final price. And that answer is going to be $44,925.90. Okay, we're good with that? They are, and they're going to make you get the mats, and they're going to make you get all of the stuff that's going to jack that price up somewhere around $900,000. But that's okay, because you're all rich. But if we think about the easier way, if you have a 4.25% discount, what percent did you pay for? 95.75% of the cost. So 95.75% looks like that is a decimal, because that's what you're paying. So again, this is the car price. That's the discount. If it's 4.25%, you're paying for 95.75% of the price, which looks like this. And this discounted price is taxed at a rate of 15%, which means you're going to multiply it by 1.15. And that expression is the most simplest way to express how to get the answer to the story problem.